The Detour. I was born for the deep end. Namon, Abe, Andrea. Some people's names have been changed in this book to protect their identity. Dedication. This book is dedicated to those who feel like they will never achieve their dreams. Acknowledgement. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge God, my family and friends who have been with me all the way. Testimonies. Every life has a beginning. No one was consulted before life began. Much of our childhood is not of our choice. There comes a time when you must rise and wrestle for the control of your life. Only by connecting the dots backwards can we make sense of our lives. In his first book, Namon is beginning the journey of connecting the dots, both to make sense of life and to become the author of his life. It's an invitation into his journey, but most importantly, an invitation to you to begin to connect the dots of your life. Max Moyo, author, life and leadership coach. Namon Abe Andrea's book tells a compelling story of a young man's determination to make something worthwhile of his life. He moves between Malawi and South Africa, not just to survive, but also to make his future, to thrive and follow his sense of calling to help others prosper in this often hostile world. It is told with quiet fortitude, undergirded by religious belief and strong personal conviction to take us on a journey of hardship, despair, joy, and abiding hope. Professor Sean Fillon, English Department, Stellenbosch University. If you want to know how to stay positive in your life in the face of adversity, this is the book you will enjoy reading. Lee Lisk and Lucy, Beard of Hope Distillery. Namon Abe Andrea's quest to fulfill his purpose, as he so profoundly stated to his mother at an early age. Mother, when I grow up, I want to help in the transformation of lives around the world. His call is expressed in John 18:37a. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, is perfectly mastered in his book, The Detour. I was born for the deep end. A delightful read, this book engages the reader from page 1 and takes us on a journey of transformation within ourselves as we live the experience of the young Namon. This book is an adventure of a man who has only begun to scratch the surface of what God has called him to pioneer in our modern world. Full of biblical truths, I loved The Detour. Read and taste the richest food for the soul. Elizabeth McLaughlin, President of the Hedges and Highway Outreach Ministries, Inc. Namon is a wise young man. One thing about him is he knows how to get things done. A very persistent figure. Nkululeku Maswambuka. Introduction. The memory from faculties as I prompt my pen to empty all the ink on these papers you are holding. My writing is a collection of memories, my own, supported by those of my friends and colleagues, memories printed on paper like my date of birth, and printed on the hearts of men. Age is a collection of memories, good and bad, happy and sad, wise and foolish. We age to remember and to share these memories with those we love and care for. I write to share, inspire, and encourage my readers to think big and to be more. The Detour will introduce you to a different kind of thinking, and it will inspire you. Let's begin. Birth. I was born in 1993 in the cool of May 20. It was Thursday, and the sun was lazy on this day, so I was told. Winter sun is oftentimes lazy, and for that matter, it was morning around 8 a.m. that I was born. My father was at his business selling beef at a small scale, as my mother was giving birth to me at Medici Mission Hospital, and her mother by her side. My father was informed about my birth an hour later, and he rushed on foot to the hospital, a 20 minutes walking distance, where he was told that his firstborn, me, was having breathing problem which had occurred a few minutes before he entered the hospital. His sweaty face seemed perturbed upon hearing the news. The nurse in the room encouraged him, adding a few medical words that he didn't care to recognize. This was my first detour on my way to success. My difficulty in breathing was considered a small matter, but persisted for a year. My parents visited hospitals weekly, meeting doctors to help the little Namon rise above his problem. The doctors could not, for a year, find the cause of my difficulty in breathing. My problem gave my parents a hard time, especially considering that I was their firstborn son. I was new to the world, and they were new to parenting. How could young parents know how to handle a little child who was born with a problem in acquiring the life-sustaining gas, oxygen? As my parents recount the story, as they describe the silence of the sleepless nights, nights which got darker as my situation worsened, as the two show the images of the sour moments, one could be tempted to believe that amidst of problems, coldness can conquer two souls. They were so worried about what would become of my life. On the 10th of August 1995, in the mild hotness of the day, I started choking somewhere around 2 p.m. I continuously choked and coughed for some minutes. Eventually, my breathing got worse, and the same day they rushed me to Medici Mission Hospital, my birthplace, where I was admitted for 1 day, and the following day, with signs of improvement, they discharged me. Exactly on the 7th day from my previous admission, things got far much worse. That was on the 17th of August, 1995. My parents took me to Wantanga Hospital, where the doctors confirmed I had asthma. The 2-year-old Namon was asthmatic and started receiving treatment for asthma. I took the treatment for 5 years and miraculously healed, because since that time, I have never had any asthmatic signs, which is rare for most people. The little Namon rose above asthma. Everything that causes asthma, though not much interested to know it, was and still is under Namon. Life is a battle from the very start. We fight right from the womb to the end of it. Each day we live is a win, and there are in life support systems that are set to help us win the battle. No aid is better than parents. They sacrifice almost everything just to see us live and win the battles which we could otherwise not win on our own. Recognize your support systems. Overcoming Detours 1. You may have experienced adversity, setbacks and heartaches in your past. But today is a new day. As I share with you my story, I will challenge you in this book to see detours as the opportunities to rethink and refresh. You will become the best you can be, not merely average or ordinary. To do that, you must renew your mind, start enlarging your vision, and enjoy your life. Are you ready to develop your full potential? Let's get started. The desire. As a little boy, I had this strong desire to speak in front of people. I just had the drive, an urge, that impulse that in some way, obliviously, tells you, I want this, do this, and yes, this one. When I was in primary school, this instinctive urge pushed me to join literary groups, reciting poems, and even act in drama. In Standard 5, while at St. Francis Private Primary School, amongst my friends, they chose me to recite a poem on the day of closing our first term. I memorized the poem. I could say it in my room, in my bathroom, in my walks to schools, sometimes even in the toilet. It was a task I had set my heart on. I lived as if they will not be announcing exams on this day, but rather that they will all come just to listen to me recite the piece. I was sure of the words. It was all in my mind. The day to recite the poem came. Such an awesome day. Both the young and the old were gathered, boys and girls, men and women, their little children crying on the other side. In our area, term closing days were special days. Multitudes gathered to listen to the names of successful students, though I'm sure most of them were only interested in the top 3 of each class, but the rest of those who passed were mentioned on this day. It could last hours, from morning to lunch. A busy day with interesting events that students prepared to show their parents and guardians, taking pride in the education they were attaining. I was on this day showing off my speaking skills. It was my turn to show my proficiency. I moved to the front, taking bold steps, minding that behind me were teachers and in front of me were parents and guardians, mine who I was to make proud. My fellow students were on my two sides, some on my right and some on my left. When my mother saw me, standing in front of hundreds of people, her eyes looking at me, she was both startled and happy. I started. My beginning was with such a loud punch that was dying with each line of the poem. And my heart started beating fast, my lungs wheedled for more air from the universe at a faster rate, and my small legs started shaking. Then it was some itching in my armpits, sweating profusely, and my eyes turning red. I could not move. I could not talk. Then tears. I could not finish the poem. I was on mute, or rather in limbo, with eyes open though, looking at the crowds before me, sentimental tears flowing down my cheeks, and deep inside blaming myself for taking such an embarrassing task. How could I stupidly think that I could stand before all these great people, I thought. I could hear from my left some fellow students were laughing and cracking jokes about me. There has not been a time in childhood that I wished, for a minute, I just vanished from existence. I wished I could just run away, but my legs froze. Knees were pulling together, my feet shuffled and toes curled up. Some minutes passed and a teacher came to my rescue. The standard 5 old me wet in the pouring of rains of embarrassment. I sunk my face in his big black jacket, crying. On my way home, some of my friends laughed at me. I got angry, not at them, but at myself. Why could I embarrass myself on such a great occasion? I recalled the moments of my practice. The memories made me get more livid. The urge that got me embarrassed never died in me. I still wanted to talk to people, and even more. My mother was and still is a prayerful woman. She prayed for me and shared with me the story of Jeremiah in the Bible, who by the same condition almost rejected the calling of God upon his life, and how God told him that, "Don't be afraid of their faces, for I am with you." Since that time, I have developed my confidence, and there is no great assurance than knowing that God is with me when I stand in front of people. As Napoleon Hill once said, "The starting point of all achievement is desire. I have proven that my desire to speak in front of people was stronger. The following 2 terms I acted as David in a David and Goliath drama. I played a lead role and nailed it. Later in my career, acted lead role again. Desire it, do it." Overcoming detours 2. As long as you can't imagine it, as long as you can't see it, then it is not going to happen for you. Today you are reading a book written by a boy who could not recite a simple poem in front of his friends. I had to imagine myself doing better and changing the world over on a larger scale. You have to conceive your life on the inside before you can give birth to it on the outside. If you don't think you can have something good, then you never will. My challenge with the poem was not people, but the way I thought about myself. The day I changed the way I see myself, my life changed. The barrier is in your mind. It's not God's lack of resources or your lack of talent that prevents you from thriving. Your own wrong thinking can keep you from God's best. I was born in 1993 with everything I needed for success and affluence. Had I gave up after my first attempt at public speaking, this book was not going to be published. The speaker in me would have died, and many other things. You too, you have everything you need. So take advantage of your detour as they enlarge your vision. You must start looking at life through eyes of faith, seeing yourself rising to new levels. See your dreams coming to pass. You must conceive it and believe it is possible to give birth to a better you. Heart for the world. Then my mother prepared me a meal. It was nsima with beef. We usually ate meat, and meat in most Malawian locations would define being rich. I remember some of our neighbours would joke and tell my parents, "The rich of our community." You eat meat every day. Sometimes when we want our kids to taste meat, we just send them to your home and play with your kids. It was a mere exaggeration, but not that much far from the truth. My father was selling meat in Chichewa. There is an idiom which says, "Owenga mafuta satua." In English can be, "He who refines oil is always shiny." As a family, we were not rich according to how society in general defines the rich, but undoubtedly we lived a comfortable life than that of the common man. We had breakfast plus a late afternoon tea, in most cases taken after 4 p.m., not common for most of my area, and, on top of that, we ate meat. We had clothes enough that my siblings and I could go for 2 weeks changing without repeating a shirt. We rode our bicycles when going to school, sports bikes, not the common ones like Hunter or Humber, and my immediate brother and I had 3 bikes through our primary school. The bikes saved us from scorching heat, and many times watching my friends walking on foot touched me, and I felt as if I should borrow them mine. Some of them were even barefooted. My curiosity and heart for people on such life imbalances grew, and I, one day, asked my mother, "Mum, why is it that some people are too rich and others are too poor?" I asked. "That's how life is, my son," she said as she picked a plate from the small plastic bucket to wash. I liked talking to Mum when she was washing dishes. She needed some company, and dishes were not much involving. She could still give the attention even in her busiest. "Why do some people build many big houses, but they can't build for those who have none?" I asked. She looked startled. She stood up from the little wooden chair she sat on. "Not even helping the poor with food, and yet throwing plenty of it in the garbage," I continued. "It takes a heart to see beyond your own needs, my son." "You mean all these people don't have a heart? And how does one get that heart? I need it." "Not all, but to first see someone's needs before your own is not for everyone. As for you, you already have it, my son." "I want to help those in need, Mum. I will give my time and resources to help the disadvantaged people," I said. As a young boy, I could not understand the intricate issues of inequality, why some people were rich and still wanted to be richer without considering, and even at the expense of, others. I saw people beg and saw people throw in the garbage what others begged to get. What if they just collect what remained from their tables and share them with those who beg? Why don't they just give even without begging? I was asking myself such many questions at each sight of life imbalances. As I rode to school, I could see disadvantaged men and women, dressed in rugs with dry and cracked lips, walking around the community with a bag on their shoulders, seeking a job, handouts, or shelter. At times, when my parents could afford paying them, they would call them and give them some work, farming our 4 hectares of land which we owned. They paid them from the proceedings of the butchery business, which by then, the year 2000 to 2003, my father started with a capital of MK 200,000 to operate, and we could pay 6 families who were working on the fields. A vision is born from awareness. Without light, there is no sight. Begin your life by being aware of your surroundings. From it will emerge your passions. Overcoming Detour 3. The fact that you are reading this book says that you are ready to take advantage of your detour. You want to reach your full potential. The good news is God is with you right now. He wants to fill your life with new thoughts. But are you willing to get rid of your old map? Will you allow him to drive you to your new destination? Will you enlarge your vision and get rid of those old negative mindsets that brought you to where you are right now? For you to understand this immeasurable favor, you must rid yourself of that small-minded thinking and start expecting God's blessings. Start allowing him to drive your life from today. In other words, you must not drive your life. You must make room for increase in your own thinking, and then God will take you to your destination. Until you learn how to surrender to God, seeing the future through your eyes of faith, your own wrong thinking will prevent good things from happening in your life. God will not drive your life, pour fresh creative ideas and blessings if you don't surrender. Family business. The butchery business was the family's paycheck. We depended on it in almost everything. For years, it was our financial pillar on which we leaned, and my father was such a business genius from whom I acquired a lot of business intelligences. It was until 2006 when my father decided to go to Zambia, trespassing into Lusaka with a truck that carried his 4 tons of tobacco. He offloaded his tobacco at some place in the market, waiting to start the trade the morning after. On the same night that he offloaded his tobacco, some guys set up a fire in the market and the whole market burned, including my father's tobacco. He did not save anything from the flames, not even a single bale. He lost everything. He stayed in Lusaka, stuck with no transport to come back home to us. The trespassing itself made it hard for him to make a claim or ask any compensation from the authorities so that he could return to Malawi. It was the worst of his trips, and it cost him the butchery business. He closed it. This was one of the biggest detour in our lives. Everything changed. The collapse of the business came with serious repercussions. It started with the 4 o'clock tea which we stopped drinking when my father was still in Lusaka. Then it was missing breakfast some days. Then sometimes no food the whole day. Clothes, most of them, began to worn out. Clothes last as long as the number of times they have been repeated. We started repeating clothes. Hoping to revive his business, my father, in 2008, resolved to sell a 4-bedroomed house that we owned at Madisi, and we moved to Chinkoma, Kasungu district, where we rented a house. I considered, and still do consider it, one of the worst detour he faced after his journey from Lusaka. But sometimes I understood him. He had responsibilities, and he was also frustrated by the loss he made in Lusaka. The following year, we moved from Chinkoma to Nchezi in Lilongwe, where my father was still trying to stabilize his business. I, on the other hand, started selling mandasi during the school holidays. I only had 2 pairs of jeans and 3 shirts which I wore the whole week, and sometimes I had to wait for one of the trousers to dry so I could put it on. Things got that worse. It took some courage to engage oneself in mandasi, especially at Kanengo. There were a lot of issues and not good for children of my age. There was stiff competition. It needed playing smart the game, especially to win the coins of staff from Premium Tobacco Limited and Alliance One. I remember this other day, as I approached the selling points, one of the fellows shouted, "You will not sell here, boy." The others in agreement shouted, "Yes." I stopped a few meters from them, thinking of whether to go back to where I came from, but I resolved to move forward. "You are still coming," another guy who was the oldest among us said. His fury sprang to life. He might have thought that I would go back at their go. I was the youngest among them, and I learned that a great part of our society takes advantage of the weak instead of assisting them. They trump on them like elephants. They dip their canines on their flesh. They enjoy licking the blood flowing and ululate at their fall. "This young lad sells small mandasi. He will tarnish our reputation here," another guy said. But all these were mere fabrications just to get rid of me. There was no difference in the sizes of our products. There were fights almost every day at the site. The divorce survey has proved that the lack of money is #1 reason people separate. But my mother supported my father even when everything was falling apart. I would sometimes hear her praying to God to give my father strength and wisdom to overcome his challenges. Her reaction showed me that true love exists. How I became an autodidact. In 2009, I completed my secondary school education at Chupoka Secondary School in Salima. The financial challenges got worse and worse. At this stage in life, most secondary school leavers get excited about college. Most of their discussions are about which college they want to study and which program. I had no such conversations in mind, and I even evaded such kind of talks. They touched my heart. They were to me useless, not in themselves, but to me personally, for even if I partook in such conversation, vexation of self could be the only result. I had given up on college. I never saw myself going to college. Not that I was dull for college, but I didn't see my parents affording my tuition. I lost motivation right when I was in school, and I stopped working hard. You know that feeling you get when you have this idea that even if I do A, I won't get B. And eventually, in the psych, doing A becomes useless. I lost the drive. My younger brother and sister were still in secondary school at that moment, so unlike me, they needed more financial support to complete their secondary school level than I did. Although I knew I had not completed my education in a real sense, but I had to go by the usual saying, much said for those who were done with secondary school level, Anomalisa school, that is to say, I completed my education. So I stopped pursuing my education. I could not withstand the sight of my siblings failing to pursue their education. They had already spent 2 terms out of school because of the lack of school fees, and the same pushed me to start seeking employment. I could not but work, and do any work available to help my parents send my siblings back to school. I knocked at every company's gate within my reach to get myself employment. Some gates opened, and some did not. And even those that opened never allowed me to stay. Luck comes to the persistent and diligent. I never gave up looking for a job. My parents could not afford to pay my college tuition, but I was so desperate for a job and too broke that I could not afford unemployment. In 2011, I got a job at one of the companies around Canengo called the Silcon. I worked for a year and was retrenched later. I was back to square one. I spent months without a job, but never stopped knocking on the gates and offices for a new job. I was always looking for my opportunity. I knew my parents could not afford to take me to college. After discovering that the word education came from a Greek word called edukos, which means to draw from within, it was evident to me that life was offering me lemons to make lemonade. So I started getting busy with my research, reading, learning, and getting mentors and coaches. I discovered a treasure within me, and I have never stopped developing. At the gate, I woke up one morning, determined for a new day, as usual, walking in the Mother's Prayer declarations. I wore black jean shorts, a grey shirt, and of course slippers. It was a warm day, and I was just roaming around Canengo auction floors, watching people busy in their businesses. I had a piece of sugarcane in my hand, chewing it bit by bit, node by node. I liked sugarcane. As I passed by Alliance 1 premises, I saw people rushing to the gate, lining up. I didn't hesitate nor seek to ask, but joined the long line. When I moved to the line, they confirmed to me that they were employing people on this day. Those jobs that don't need a CV, they just pick from the available people. I just had to join and ask later. The company was looking for 50 people, but present on this day were 400 people. I butted into the line, shamelessly chewing my cane, and I found myself on the first standing line. I could see the guard in his black uniform. The guard looked 40, and his gangstery black face sweating, his eyes were red and cold, his hard iron arms swinging a small rod. He deployed all kinds of sarcasm at us as we pushed forward. From the look one could tell the level of anger that filled his heart. Beside him stood a fat man, the supervisor. A man, but with feminine traits, his face smooth and fat and well packed like sausage, but a welcoming one, his fair hands holding a pen and a book, writing the names of the selected. His voice, as he called us out, sounded like a woman, soft. He was the very opposite of the guard. "Young man, come here," in the soft voice he called. "Me?" the guy in front of me answered. The selection was at random. You could be in front, but the selected could be the one behind. That was annoying. "No, the one behind you." He pointed at me. I clasped my hands on my chest. My stomach immediately clenched. I slowly started moving, my chest tingling and my breathing accelerating at each step, and my mouth slackening. It was a mixture of sensations. How could someone who was just loitering around, wasting his time, be the 11th to be picked among the 400? Thoughts rushed through my mind as I moved to where the supervisor was. I immediately gave the remaining 2 nodes of the sugarcane to the man on my left. "No, go back," the supervisor announced. "Why, sir?" I said tremulously. "We do not let in someone in slippers." I looked down on my feet as if I didn't know that I was in slippers, and I looked up to him. His impartial eyes made contact with mine. "But, sir," I said, gaping, my mouth opening and closing, my hands carving through my hair, holding it back and then releasing. Is this how I missed this opportunity? I thought. "No," the woman behind me dishearteningly said. "You cannot leave him simply because he has no shoes." Everyone turned his or her eyes to her. "Here is my Sophia." She quickly offered me her plastic female shoes. At this juncture, I think no one in my financial condition would hesitate to put on the feminine shoes. I bothered not to think about it, and I slipped my feet into them. Some guys laughed, but most of the people around understood. We were all swollen from the blows of unemployment. I wore the Sophia. "You cannot put on feminine shoes, and for that matter, Sophia." "No," he said, his sausage-like face sweating. "You don't care about our employment, do you?" the woman cried, aggrieved by his lack of empathy. The rest of the people shouted in revolt at his decision. And there I was. I got the job. I still search for that heavenly sent lady angel who borrowed me her Sophia. I have never seen her since that day. I asked the people who usually stayed around the gate, but they said she had stopped coming to the place. She was my salvation as the axe of unemployment was about to cut me further. Those of us who got the job were told that we should come the next day early in the morning. I went home, an excited man, but with a million thoughts. I never recalled all the events of the day. Have you ever been in a situation in which you even think of slapping just to prove that you were dreaming? As I walked, I started thinking about the medical test which we were going to go through at the company, worrying that maybe the infancy breathing problem could test positive and I could be disqualified. I prayed that the test for any of the medical issues should be negative. When I got home, I didn't share the news with my family. I didn't want them to be more anxious just as I was. I was very anxious, not just because it was my first time working in a factory, but also that I didn't want to lose this job. Tobacco companies paid better than the rest at Canengo in those days. The medical test went well, and I started working the same day. Working at Alliance was such an awesome experience. Challenges in the workplace are always there, but the overall experience was amazing. I had a good supervisor, Fanny Kaludzu. She always encouraged me to not focus on my immediate challenges, but rather keep a positive mind and be optimistic about the future. She was a good auntie that the job gave me, and we usually, in a manner of respect, called her Auntie Fanny, perhaps because she was not married. It was possible just to watch the people on the line pass by me while chewing my sugarcane. It was also possible to leave the line after that not having shoes, but I did not. There are times in life one has to take an opportunity. Opportunities are like beautiful girls. Almost every man wants them, and when one sees them, must not relent or hesitate, but go after them. Overcoming Detour 4. God has so much more in store for you. Start making room for it in your thinking. Conceive it on the inside. Start seeing yourself rising to a new level, doing something of significance, living the life of your dreams. Understand, God is constantly trying to plant new seeds in your heart. I was disappointed by Family Detour, but it turned out to be the best thing that has ever happened to me. It made me to realize that God always has a better plan for our lives. He's constantly trying to get you to conceive, to give up your old route and spawn new bursts of creativity within. The key is to believe, to let the seed take root so it can grow. If you look carefully, you will see that the detour is God trying to encourage you. He's allowed people to cross your path who are far more successful than you are, who have achieved their dreams. When you see or hear about other people succeeding or doing what you want to do, be encouraged rather than jealous. Change your thinking. Get beyond the detours of the past and start expecting God to do great things in your life. The turnaround. The job helped me in many ways, and above all, the job served my main interest, money. I was looking for money to assist my siblings in school, which I did, and managed to save some. I started planning to move to South Africa to seek greener pastures. I had it all figured out that if I stayed in Malawi, which was good, but with my education I will hardly reach my goals, as my contract with Alliance was going to an end. Thus I started saving money for my passport and transport to South Africa. In December 2013, my contract with the company ended. From January 2014, I was busy preparing for my journey to South Africa. The thought of moving to South Africa excited me and, at the same time, scared me. I was excited that in South Africa I will be earning more money than I did in Malawi. I could even imagine the payment, and I could see myself sending money back to my parents. That thought alone made me smile. It was my heart's desire to help my family, and it was the main reason for my travel. On the other hand, when I thought about leaving home, leaving my parents, my brother and sisters, and of course my friends, sadness visited me. I could not handle the idea of being away from the people I loved. The dilemma. I remember the day before I was to go to South Africa, as I walked to the market, a sad thought hit me hard that I started thinking of holding my trip. I enjoyed being around my family, but I was tired of seeing them suffer. I was lost in thought. I went as far as thinking of death. What if I die there? The thought made residence in my head for some time. I attempted to drive it into the forgetting corner of my head, but it never ran. So, if I die in South Africa, this will be the last time to see my parents? This thought was determined to never leave my mind. I tried to think of something nice, but it never worked. In those days were a great deal of narratives being told about South Africa, some which included foreigners being killed. And they will never see me again? What if I will be shot the very first day? Won't it be that I just delivered myself into the gaping mouth of death? I thought. It was a car hooter that woke me up from the reveries. It almost hit me. The driver cursed. I only wished he understood my dilemma. Another thought struck me quickly. Now, here you could die, and what's worse is that you could die thinking about things that you were not even sure would happen. Fear can make a man create monsters. I think fear itself is a monster, a mother of all monsters. It gives birth to other imaginary monsters. I went back home walking slowly, but I was not thinking about those horrible things that I was thinking about before. I saw my mother sitting on a mat, doing her hair. I went straight to her. Beside her was a big Chichewa Holy Bible. "Hey, you look sad." I smiled. "No, you look sad. Even your smile is fake," she said. Sometimes there is that sadness that others can see written bold on your face. I thought I'd dropped those horrible thoughts behind, but subconsciously still haunted me, and my face was proof. "What's wrong, my son?" she inquired. "Nothing, Mum," I said. "Nothing? What does that even mean?" She moved a little to let me sit. It was around 5 p.m. and the sun was setting. A beautiful sunset it was, that I hoped it could brighten my sombre face. She took the book and read me a couple of verses. She encouraged me through many scriptures, quoting her favourite verses. "My son, I know you might be in deep thought about your journey. Don't worry about anything. I might not have anything tangible to give you for your journey, but I will give you this scripture." She handed me the Bible. "Take it for yourself, 1 Corinthians 10:13. I read it out loud. "There hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it." I paused. "This is a powerful verse, Mum," I added to my recital. "You might forget everything that I have said in your life, my son, but never forget this verse. You might lose sight of the many things that I gave you, but don't lose sight of this verse. Let it be a light in your dark times." "It has been my perfect companion in my dark times," she said, patting my back. I felt like a weight was leaving my heart. I was confident once again. The weight of horrible thoughts was lifted. As I sat with Mum, chatting with her, knowing that this would be our last and months will elapse without such a beautiful chat with my only mother, a friend came. "Noel, you have come to say goodbye to Namon," Mum said, as I moved to meet Noel. "Yes, and to wish him luck," Noel said. Noel and I had so many things in common, and on this day he escorted me to my other friends so that I could say goodbye to them as well. I slept with excitement for my journey. Nothing in life is as hard as leaving people you love. No wonder death is the hardest thing. Death is painful, but a great part of that pain is psychological, from the one dying and the one who is not dying. The pain comes from the fear of separation. Life is all about the connection. Once that connection is exposed, fear of separation creeps in, and that is where pain comes in and takes over. Nevertheless, in search for a better life, in search for an opportunity, a person must face the fear of separation, and in that there is growth. Overcoming Detour 5. God still wants you to go further. My own father accomplished great things in his life, but God used detours to start my own journey. There is a seed within you trying to take root. In my case, I was supposed to leave my own country and come to a new country for my seed to take root. In the beginning, I thought I was bewitched, but today I see God trying to get me to conceive. He was trying to fill me with so much hope and experience that the seed will grow and bring forth a tremendous harvest. God wants you to do big things in your life. Release old limiting beliefs and know that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Don't settle for anything less. We serve the God that created the universe. We've got to eliminate this barely get by mentality. Get rid of that small-minded thinking and start thinking as God thinks of you. Think big and think abundance. A 3-day journey. The day of my departure came on the 26th of April 2014. I headed off to South Africa. I woke up earlier than all other days, full of hope and excitement, to begin a new life. I took my luggage and left home. It was early morning, but Noel still escorted me. He was fulfilling a promise he made the night we were together. When I arrived at Dedza border, I was instructed to enter this other small room to have my passport stamped. The room had a broken ceiling, dirty water, which I suppose were from its leaks, had drawn maps onto it. The walls were painted chalk white, but at this point were turning cream white, and there was a crack right at the corner. The floor had multiple cracks, and it had the smell of an old library. I supposed it came from the documents which were stuck at the corner. I was on a line together with others, and in front of me was a man, black and of medium height. He looked back, and my eyes eyed his. "Hi," he pronounced with a grin. Hi." It was an unexpected greeting. I slipped my hand into my pocket and took out my phone. "I am Austin, and you are—" "Namon," I smiled. "Namon, just like that." He smiled as well. "You're going to Johannesburg, right?" "Yes, I hope you too," I said. He nodded his head and said, "And I can't wait to get there, to see beautiful things. Oh, for once my eyes should behold beauty." His eyes glowed and his yellow teeth were all out, and my intestines felt as if they had moved as we talked about our expectations. We both were excited. "Me too. I can't wait." "Where'd you come from?" I said. "I'm from Chazy." "And you?" "I am from Chazy. I have some friends in Chazy. Do you know Isaac?" "Ha ha. Chazy and Chazy. Yes, I recognize someone by that name, but I am not sure if he is the one you're referring to," he said. "Ah, he is my age, tall, masculine, and he bears a scar along his cheeks." "He has this deep voice like Sun B." "Sun B is a Malawian artist." "Yes, that one," he said. He was the next to have a passport stamped. He moved closer to the desk. There was a woman, thick and light in complexion. She was shouting at almost everyone. "Hey, give me the passport," she said angrily to Austin. Austin had put his passport in his bag. "You are delaying me, imp," she added in a high pitch. Austin just looked at her and took out the passport from the side pocket of his bag. I also had my passport in my bag, which I had to take out even as Austin was having his stamped. Austin had his passport stamped and stood by as I moved to the desk. "Why are you still standing here? Get out," the woman said. "Lady, you are stupid." He scrunched up his face. "I'm not your son to shout at any time you want. No, just do your dull job." "How does standing here as I wait for my friend affect your stamping job?" "Nonsense," Austin said. He now had every right. His passport was already stamped. She was of no use to him like many of us when we have been used and dumped. He had to show her his true self, cocky as hell. "I'm going out of this stinking room. I was only waiting for my friend. I even wonder, how do you manage to stay here the whole day? You too must be stinky," he said as he moved out of the room. Everyone looked at him, and the woman was put on mute. I had my passport stamped and quickly moved out. I saw Austin standing close to the bus, smoking. I moved towards him. "Sorry, I smoke," he said. "It's okay, I understand," I said. "Especially when I'm pissed." "That pig of a woman got into my nerve," he said. "She is disrespectful," I said to my new friend. "She deserves a smack. Some women are just stupid. They think every man is as stupid as their husbands or as meek as their children, who they can shout at as much as their wide mouths can allow them. I don't hesitate to beat the stupidity out of people. 2 weeks ago, I beat up a certain man who owed me money. For 6 months he never paid. I took his TV screen and beat the foolishness out of him. I detest nonsense," he said. He said many things in which he made himself sound a real tough man. We entered the bus and left for South Africa. A 3 days' journey. Connect with people. They have the rungs of the ladder that take you higher. The arrival. It was quite an interesting journey, crossing borders, hearing people speak new languages as we moved through Mozambique and Zimbabwe, and finally arriving South Africa. I was a man of about 21 years old, but let me admit, I was a little nervous. That kind of feeling that we all have when we have come across new things, new people, and new experiences. I was also excited to be in Joburg, as it was called. I was so full of hope. On our journey, we did not talk to each other that much until we arrived in Johannesburg, South Africa, on the 29th of April 2014, around 10 a.m. I parted ways with Austin. He was going to Cape Town, and I was to stay in Johannesburg. I was expecting my mother's friend to come and welcome me to their home, so I had to wait. I was with a taxi driver. "Come, wait at our place," the driver, who spoke English, said. I thought I would be meeting people with who I could not communicate. "Where?" I said, moving reluctantly. "Not far from here, of course. Otherwise, some people can do you harm if they see you just standing here," he said, opening the door of the taxi. "Okay." I entered. I have no other relation except this family. I didn't trust him. He only seemed that he was right, and from what he said, I was left with no choice but to oblige. "You know, this is how most of the foreigners end up in the streets," he said slowly, with somehow broken English, but with an accent. "Most of them are promised accommodation by their relative, and when they call them, they don't pick up the call. I have met several guys stranded, not knowing where to go," he continued. I was a little concerned, but I was still confident, and I became more confident with each passing second. I had prayed for this journey together with my mother, and she gave me a scripture, 1 Corinthians 10:13. I recalled the words written on that verse. I was more confident that, if anything, there will still be a way out for me. As I sat meditating through the verses and more other promises from Scripture, the son of my mother's friend came around 5:30 p.m. and took me to their home. The promises of God are yes and amen. Put your confidence in the promises of God, and not only in the promises, but also in God. It is in his nature to finish what he has started. Overcoming Detour 6. Your life will follow your expectations. What you expect is what you will get. If you dwell on positive thoughts, your life will move in that direction. If you continually think negative thoughts, you will live a negative life. I am grateful for the words my mother shared with me. They pushed me to have high expectations in life. If you expect defeat, failure, or mediocrity, your subconscious mind will make sure that you lose, fail, or sabotage every attempt to push above average. That's why one of the key elements to take advantage of your detours is raising your level of expectancy. You have to change your thinking before you can ever change your direction. It's important that you program your mind for success. That won't happen automatically. Each day, you must choose to live with an attitude that expects good things to happen to you. The Bible says, "Set your mind and keep it set on the higher things." When you get up in the morning, the first thing you should do is set your mind in the right direction. Start your day with faith and expectancy, and then go out anticipating good things. Expect circumstances to change in your favour. Expect people to go out of their way to help you. Expect to be at the right place at the right time. Expectancy. I stayed with this family for 4 months. They were a nice couple with twin girls 3 years old when I moved in with them in 2014. They treated me well and made sure I was well fed and comfortable. I didn't come to be fed. I often complained in my heart all I needed was a job, and then I could stay on my own. They were kind, and I thank them even now, but I felt like I was burdening them in some way. That irritating feeling most of us have when we're staying with other people, especially people not really related to us, and being unemployed. I was feeling useless, an idle bag, waiting to be filled with some food. One afternoon in the month of mid-June, I was sent to go to Everton West Mall, and on my way I met Shaibu, a friend of my young brother Philemon, in Lilongwe. "Namon," he said. "Yes," I replied. He wore a bulky pair of trousers which made him look big and, of course, fat. He seemed in a hurry, and sweat was running from his hair through his shiny forehead, through the nose, and he blew it off when it streamed down his mouth. His bulky yellow golf shirt was wet with sweat on the collar. "You are here," he said. "Yes, I came here some few months ago. When did you come here?" I said. 2 weeks ago. "Ah, I came earlier than you. You have a job?" "Yes, I am working in one of the shops here." "Oh, lucky you." "My big brother's helped me secure a job, bro. And you?" "No, I'm not working, bro. I've been here for 2 months and some days now, but no work," I said. "There is an opportunity at the place I'm working. You can consider joining us if you don't mind," he said. "Definitely, I will," I said. We parted ways, and after 2 days I was called to start working in a shop which sold electronics, accessories, and clothing. I was not happy with the job. I just didn't like it. I was unemployed before it, yes, but I still believed there was something better than this job precisely. I wanted that better job that was in store for me. I contacted Austin, asked him for job opportunities. He assured me of one. I left the family in Joburg to Cape Town because I wanted a better job. Being ambitious is not ingratitude, and being less ambitious is not gratitude. Don't settle for less in life. The tension. The first 2 months of staying with Austin and his cousins around were good. We were brothers in a foreign land, all seeking greener pasture. We did everything together, and when one was going out, we informed each other. There was no one older than the other or better than the other. Things turned upside down when I got a job as a warehouse manager. The job was better than the one Austin had. This brother in a foreign land started trying to prove a point in everything. He even reminded me that he was the one who got me to Cape Town. Getting me to Cape Town was a debt that I was already determined to repay. And with each passing day he was in my head. Who were you before you came here? You were rotting in Johannesburg. One night we were watching Barclays Premier League game between Arsenal and Liverpool in a neighbour's house. An interesting game for a month end. Most of the guys in the room were drinking alcohol, except a few, including me, who were not drinking. Austin sat at a distance from where I was, and next to him was a friend of his cousin. "Sober man, Namon. Buy me one bottle," the friend said. "Haha, no problem, my friend." I bought him one. "Ah, thanks, bro," he said, slugging down the liquor. We kept following the game. I did not know that I had done something wrong buying that guy a bottle. It did not sit well with Austin that the next morning he said, Well, now you are making money, you are buying beer for strangers, and yet you cannot buy me even a bottle of water." Each day he seemed to corner me, accusing me of unnecessary issues just to have control. On some other day, I unknowingly dropped 200 rands in our room. I only assumed that Austin took it. I approached him. "Austin, I think I dropped 200 rand here. Did you see it?" "What?" he said angrily. "I am saying I dropped money in this room. Did you see it or pick it?" "Bro, do I look like a thief? Oh, now that you are earning some rands, you have turned me into a thief." "No, I'm not saying you were a thief. I'm only asking if you saw the money," I calmly said. "Okay, I didn't see your money. Stop wasting my time," he said, opening the door. "You are now rich, huh? Dropping 200 rand?" he added as he went out. Was I weak by not confronting him? I think not, for me. I reckoned he would come to his senses and realize how much I wanted to pay him back for the good things he performed for me and respect him. I remember when I first got my first salary, I bought him a shirt and trouser, and at times I would not let him contribute money for buying groceries. I would tell him I have taken care of it. Driven out by conflict. As matters got worse, I thought of moving out. I could not put up with such kind of demeanour. The following month I moved out of his room and got a room that I shared with one of his cousins. It was next to Austin's. I thought this would solve the tension between us, but, well, I was bloody wrong. The very same month he came to our room drunk in very odd hours of the day. "Hey, Namon, where is my cousin?" "I don't know. He just went out," I said. He began to speak about many things, grumbling and talking the drunkard's nonsenses. "Austin, can you please bug off? I want to sleep, Austin." "It's 11 p.m. Tomorrow I have to go to work," I said. "Ah, okay. Ha. I'm going out, boss." He slammed the door and moved out. His voice was so demeaning. I didn't care about the demeaning. As long as he was out, I was fine. I locked the door and got into my blankets. 10 minutes later, there was a bang on my door. Someone was pounding it heavily. I got up from my bed, and as I moved to the door, "Open this door!" It was Austin. I stopped walking towards the door. Instead, I paced around the room as if I was doing some exercise walks, aimless and yet full of energy. "Who do you think you are?" he said. "Who were you before you came here? Who were you in Johannesburg, stupid boy?" He talked on top of his voice. Now, I didn't know what he exactly wanted. The noise was too loud. I opened the door, and he was right at the very door. My eyes made contact with his groggy eyes. He cursed, said many unsayable things, and he finally spat on my face. I didn't say anything. I took my shirt and cleaned off his alcohol-stinking saliva from my face. I was boiling inside. I could not understand the wrong I did him. He continued talking up until 12:30 a.m. I got tired of listening to his disheartening speeches. I then remembered the brothers from Medici who I met a few weeks before all this happened. They were also staying in Cape Town. I quickly picked up my phone and called them, telling them what was happening. They could, through the phone, hear the nauseating things that Austin spewed. They told me to move in with them daylight of that night. I started packing some of my stuff that same night. In daybreak, Austin's cousin, the guy I was staying with, was back. I told him what happened, and he was sad to learn that I was moving out. He could not make me stay, as I could not. I left, and I never came back. A few days after I left, some people would tell me what Austin was saying. He told them that I would be back. I won't last. I had nowhere to go in Cape Town. He, like many others who mistreat other people in their desperate times, didn't know that I had an alternative, some brothers who I met. When people think you have no choice, they succumb you to forces that oppress you. They are, in some way, certified to abuse you. Even in love relationship, one partner succumbs to abuse the other when he, she seem to have no options. Look for options and be bold enough to take them. I know you think Austin was a bad person, but the truth, he was not a bad person. Austin was afraid of losing a friend. The guy was good to me, and I will forever be grateful for what he did to me. I don't believe you were going to read this book without Austin's invitation to Cape Town. I will forever be grateful to my friend, and I still pray and hope to meet him again. Things were not easy, but I was able to achieve most of my dreams in Cape Town, and Austin is the one who invited me. Overcoming Detour 7. You must look through your eyes of faith and start seeing yourself as happy, healthy, and wealthy. That means even when your situation looks bleak, when you're discouraged or depressed, you must encourage yourself. Friend, that's what faith is all about. You have to start believing that good things are coming your way, and they will. God usually meets us at our level of depression. If you don't develop the habit of expecting good things to come your way, then you're not likely to receive anything good. If you don't expect things to get better, they probably won't. If all you expect is more of the same, that's all you're going to have. Our expectations set the boundaries for our lives. You may not be perfect. Nobody is. Sure, you've got some flaws, we all do. But to be truly free, you must have a healthy respect for yourself in spite of those imperfections. Some people are always putting themselves down. Don't be hard on yourself. I used to be hard on myself until the day I met someone who encouraged me. I was already successful, and I was not aware. I was always thinking about big things. I had this book written without money to publish it, and I was feeling bad. This guy told me that writing a book is a success, and I should now focus on raising money to publish my work, and that will be another success. His words made me to believe in myself, and I felt successful. Certainly, there may be some things in your life that you aren't happy about. You may have some habits you need to break. But remember, God is not finished with you. This is nothing but a detour in your journey. He's in the process of changing you. Your value is intrinsic. It is not something you or I have earned. Indeed, we cannot earn it. God built value into us when he created us. To God, you are his ultimate creation. The great news is that God knows everything about you, both good and bad, and he still loves you and values you unconditionally. God does not always approve of our behaviours. He is not pleased when we go against his will, and when we do, we always suffer the consequences and have to work with him to correct our thoughts, words, actions, or attitudes. And while you should work to improve in the areas where you fall short, or more, his love is a constant you can depend on. Understand, your value in God's eyes never changes. Some people want us to think that the moments we do something wrong or get off course, God rejects us. No, God is a forgiving God. He is a God of second chances. No matter how many times you fail him or how many mistakes you make, your value in God's eyes remain exactly the same. The wish of a depressed soul. I lost my job in April 2015. And in the same year I moved from Ottery, where I was staying with my homeboys, to Salt River. I was so depressed. Have you ever been in a position where you are surrounded by multitudes of friends, but the winds of solitude still blow in the mind? Feeling alone in a crowd, not of strangers, but of many who you know? That was my situation. I had acquaintances around, but well, my sorrows made me not feel their warmth. I was too cold inside for a friend. The more I tried to shake off my depression, the more it struck me down. A depressed soul is a wishing soul. I only wished, though some of my wishes were not clear. Anyway, I wished. I wished the depression left me. I wished I found a job. I wished I had money. And I wished I had gone back to Malawi. The last wish about home was an impossible goal without the fulfillment of the other wishes, especially the money one. I had no money. I was broke as hell, and I could not manage even transport back home. Even if I had the transport, it could mean nothing. My parents were still financially unstable. I remembered the day I had the reveries. What if that day it was a message that I shouldn't come here? I thought about that line over and over again. Why did I move to this place? I could get a job at Kanengo or just go farming. I could still make money. Thoughts attacked me. I regretted moving my poverty to South Africa. I felt like I just changed locations of suffering. Nothing really had changed apart from relocating from Malawi to South Africa, just to suffer. I cried, not just once, but many times and days. Crying, something that I never thought I could do, especially for facing life challenges and, for that matter, unemployment. I was adamant. I remember some time back before I came to South Africa, I used to believe that I could not cry unless death of a close relative. I believed that I had faced enough challenges for tears. I thought I was strong until the depression hit me hard. The furnace of life can surely burn even the strongest metal to ashes. I saw myself melting in tears as the heat increased each day. Even the reminiscences of those days melted my heart into tears. I knew my depression had reached its peak when I was passing by a certain shop as I was coming from visiting my friends in Ottery. Friends I met after that, between Austin and I, was an iron curtain. I then decided to pay them a visit in one of the weekends of July 2015. 5 months since my soul was soaked in hot waters. So my plan was to stay with these friends through the weekend and go back to Salt River on Monday, just to keep myself warm with them. I passed by the shop near the mosque in Ottery. I saw 2 Bangladesh men at the shop. They were, of course, in their happy hours, laughing. I wished I was as happy as they were. I walked looking at them and asking myself, how do people get this happy? Despair became a habit. I forgot what made me sad. It was the lack of a job, of course. I was internally too broke that I could not even afford a smile. I had some money for a train, for I boarded a train on my way back home, but I could not afford a simple thing as laughter. Some small things are priceless indeed. A man without work is a prey of dark emotions. I have a firm belief that idleness is more depressing than work. The intervention. I got off at Salt River train station and started walking home, and as I passed another shop, I remember I needed airtime. I turned and entered the shop. There was a woman. She was from the look quiet, sun. Faces can speak way before the mouth is open. She had put on a yellow blouse and had glasses which made her look smart. People in glasses look smart. I don't know, but I just judged her on sight. I approached the till and gave her 50 rand and said, 25 rand airtime, please. She looked at me right in the eyes and said, "You are full of fear. What is frightening you?" I was reluctant to answer. I just looked at her. "What's the problem?" she insisted. "Nothing, really," I said. She was right. Not just depression had engulfed me, but also fear. I was afraid of the future and everything, even being alive. "Wait, you are from Malawi," she said. "Yes," I said. "I see," she said. She gave me the change. I looked at her, bewildered, asking myself, who is this woman? I didn't regard it quite much. I thought, this woman maybe has been with a lot of Malawians. I took a step backward. "Wait," she said. I stopped. "Your family has financial problems," she added. I was there thinking, come on. Every Malawian here in South Africa has financial problems. Who would dare come here and walk around these streets if he is rich? "Yes," I answered, anyway. "Your father lost his business in Zambia. He went some years even before you came here, isn't it?" Now, this lady got me quiet, amazed and confused. How on earth does she know that? I had never told anyone about my family, not even my closest friends in South Africa. I was just living my life, not telling stories about myself or where I came from. Besides, this woman was a South African from Venda tribe. She had never been to Malawi. Maybe she is a Sangoma, I had thought. She is a soothsayer or something. Come on, how could she know all that? When she started quoting verses from the Bible, I then realized that she was a prophetess and indeed prophesied about my job. "You are jobless and you are looking for one. Don't worry, brother. You are not a failure. You will find a job, a good one. You are a hard-working person. Proverbs says that there is profit in diligence," she said. I was a Roman Catholic then. I didn't know what to say, not even the Amen Pentecostals say. "Don't let fear dominate you," she added in her Venda accent. "Yes, I will not," I said thoughtfully. "Instead of fear and timidity, start declaring, 'I am courageous, I am smart, I am strong.' Declare it. You know, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and sound mind," she said. She said that I should declare things into their manifestation, but I knew nothing about declarations and confessions. Remember my religious background? She said many things, encouraging me through the absurdities of life. Well, it was 4 p.m. I had to move. As I moved out, I considered my situation and what she said. It didn't take me many steps before I started making declarations. I spoke positivity as I walked back to where I was staying. 2 weeks after I met her, I was making the declarations. I was feeling relieved, a load of depression being lifted from my shoulders. In those 2 weeks, I used to go to the shop to check on her, but each time I went, I was told that she had gone to work. She was a nurse and a prophetess. That was amazing. The 3rd week, I met her in the shop, and even though I greeted her with excitement, I was disappointed that she didn't remember me with all the things she told me. So I had to remind her of the things she told me, but the energy in our conversation was not like the previous one. So I told her I was leaving, and she just told me that I should keep doing everything I was told. I believe in miracles, and I think this woman was God's way of releasing me from the heavy heart. From July 2015 until now, I have never felt depressed. I learned that sometimes people can be the greatest asset that God can give you as a person. There is nothing that a man has and should make him look down on another man, because when you have lost everything, everything you need will be in another man's hand. I shook off the depression, but the cause of my mental sickness, unemployment, was still there looking at me like, "Hey, Namon, I'm still here." I was optimistic. I was not habitually sad, but I still needed a job. It is this time that I learned that there is a difference between reacting to a crisis and responding to a crisis. Responding had to do with building oneself to be, firstly, resilient to all kinds of storms. Secondly, building oneself for another opportunity. Thirdly, being able to see the opportunities in a crisis. And finally, to be able to see opportunities that surround you. Reacting is giving back the negative energy that the crisis is releasing. It is fighting darkness with darkness. Surely one cannot fight a crisis by worrying. Worry cannot do you anything, even as small as increasing the length of your hair. Crisis will always come. Misfortunes will visit you regardless. That is the order of life. A crisis is part of life. It comes to bring us to our reality. It is during this period that you become more aware of yourself. I defined my identity more clearly. What is more important when a crisis comes, you must understand they will not last forever. Growth happens in crisis. Overcoming Detour 8. God wants the latter part of your life to be better than the first part of your life. You are never too far gone with God. Maybe you have endured terrible disappointments. Unspeakable negative things may have happened to you, to the point that you have ceased believing for anything good to occur in your life. You've lost your dreams. You are drifting through life, taking whatever comes your way. I've had people tell me, "Namon, I don't want to get my hopes up. I've been through so many hurts in the past. If I don't get my hopes up and nothing good happens to me, at least I won't be disappointed." That attitude is contrary to God's desires for your life. No matter how many setbacks you've suffered, God still has a great plan for your life. Stop focusing on what you can't do and start focusing on what God can do. Don't restrict your vision. Instead, begin seeing yourself as God's child. See yourself as receiving good things from God. If you will do your part by believing, having a big vision for your life, living with faith and expectancy, and seeing yourself as God sees you, God will take you places that other people said were impossible to experience on earth. God made a way for me to come to South Africa, and it was an invitation to my growth. I discovered that everything I was searching for was already inside me, and today you are reading my first book, A Door of Hope. On the last Tuesday of July 2015, I saw a woman who I knew her name was Lucy walking inside a distillery. The distillery was 3 blocks from where I was staying. I ran to her. "Hi," I said. "Hi," she said. "I am Namon. I stay right next to you, that block after these ones," I said, pointing at my place. "Ah, all right. Nice to know you, Namon. I am Lucy," she said, with a beautiful smile. "I am looking for a job. Do you have a job at the distillery? Any kind? I am ready to work any—" I said. "Well, wait. Let me tell Lee," she said. Lee was her husband. Both were ex-lawyers and owned the distillery. All right. I left. On the 4th of August 2015, I saw Lucy walking out of the distillery, and this time she was together with her husband Lee. I could not help it, so I ran towards them. "Hi." "Hi, Namon," Lucy said. Her husband just looked at me. "Honey, this is the guy I told you about, Namon. He is looking for a job," she added. "Ah, I remember. How are you, Namon?" Lee said. "I am well, thank you. How are you, sir?" "Don't call me sir. Just call me Lee," he smiled. "But I'm fine as well," he said. "All right, I won't," I said. "Yes, Lucy told me about the job. Share me your contact. I will let you know if any opportunity rises at our place any time soon," he said. I gave him my contact. I felt as if I have already been picked for the job. I was too optimistic. A day passed. I always had my phone with me. I changed the profiles from vibration to loud tones, despite the fact that I hated loud tones. especially the keypad tones. Another day passed. The next day, I received a call from a new number. I cleared my throat. "Hello," I said. "Hello, Namon. How have you been faring, bro?" It was one of the homeboys who just wanted to check up on me. I was disappointed. Despite that, it was a good thing to check on me. Another day passed. On the 7th, the same month, I received a call from another new number. "Hello." "Hello, Namon. How are you?" "I'm doing well, sir. How are you?" "I told you not to call me sir." I knew it was Lee. I cleared my throat. "Are you ready to start work tomorrow?" I jumped right on the call. Yes, I said. "All right. Come at the distillery tomorrow. I will see you," he said. I paced around the room like a little goat. I jumped. Finally. I started work at Hope on Hopkins Distillery on 8th of August. I worked in the production department and I was reporting directly to Lee, and my work encompassed packaging, labelling, filling and fermenting. The dawn of a new chapter, a life I yearned for dawned. I loved working at Hope Distillery. It was like my second home. Lee and Lucy made sure I was always happy, and my colleagues were most of them like brothers to me. We laughed together and shared our pains. But I have always wanted to be in a position where I can be able to contribute to humanity, a place where I can be significant, for I refuse to be another man who lived and died as if he was not born. I believe that one should not leave the earth as if he did not come. When I turned 24 on the 20th of May 2017, I spent most of the day in my room, pacing back and forth, meditating and contemplating on the direction my life was going and what I should do next. And almost immediately after thinking of what I should do next with my life, my heart was open to the idea of going back to Malawi and start my theology studies. And this idea of going back to Malawi was in my heart as a burning fire shut up in my bones, and I was weary with forbearing, and I could not stay in Cape Town any more. I picked up my phone to call my parents, and I told them I was coming home. And later, on the 30th of November 2017, I told Lee and Lucy I was resigning. I did. I started my journey back to Malawi on the 16th of December 2017. It will get darker, yes, but keep the hope and the light will come. When light shows up, do something. Sometimes light shows up, but we enjoy sleep and we miss the train of opportunity. In touch with passion. I have always had in me a passion, a flame that kept burning inside my heart, craving for manifestation like a seed buried deep in the soil, pushing and kicking like a baby in its mother's womb as it waits to rupture its container. A passion to be a pastor. I wanted to be a pastor, contrary from my childhood friends who then, when we were little, desired to be professionals like teachers, doctors and nurses. Careers that kids in remote areas know, and the more ambitious ones said they wanted to be pilots, would-be pilots, their dreams elevated by the sight of planes which the littlest waved. Say hi to Dad, who we left home. Each day that I went to church, I admired the priest wearing the black cassocks, especially those which the monsignors wore, black with fuchsia piping. A man in clerical collar had high regards in me. I have spent most of my time in church. At age 9, I was already an altar boy, serving Mass, feeding my passion to be a priest, slowly diving into the place I felt I belonged. Priesthood. That is all I desired. As I grew up, I started seeking to find the processes that make one a priest. I was told that one had to write seminary secondary school entrance exams, which most people failed. That was scary. I had to follow the protocol. I thoroughly studied, rabidly smoking every piece of notes at my disposal until I felt intoxicated by the same, overly giving attention to every detail of the ink that will make me become a priest. Barely sleeping, just to study. The day of the exams came. I wrote with all confidence, Never have I had confidence in exams like those ones. I went out of the exams knowing that I have chewed them to the last bone, and I saw myself in the clerical clothes pacing the corridor of the seminary. I assured my parents that I had aced the exams. Came results, most people failed, and, sadly, I was among the most. I failed. Indeed, great expectations are a ladder to great frustrations. Until now, I still don't understand how I goofed. I was down in disappointment that I hated myself for that failure. My family tried to whisper in my ears some encouragements, but it meant nothing and I felt mocked, especially that they didn't like the idea of not getting married for the rest of my life. I remember my late grandmother, an Ankoma, blatantly said that she wanted to see my sons, and she paid no coin for my priesthood idea. Namon, I want to see your sons, my grandsons, quiet like you. A priest? No, that is a very expensive idea. I cannot afford it, she often said. When she came and encouraged me after I failed the exams, those words echoed. I hated it. In 2017, I had grown old enough to realize this dream, so I decided to move from South Africa and go back home to Malawi and do my theology studies. I did go back. I went to Malawi Assemblies of God Institute of Theology in Lilongwe. My parents' business was like a phoenix rising from the ashes, taking shape back to what it used to be and even more, but it could not still pay my tuition at college. I decided to buy a car which would run as a taxi to help me pay my fees. I bought the car from one guy who stayed in Nchezi. That car was no car but a bunch of problems with the engine. The steering wheel shook with an increase in speed, it lacked tyre wheel balance, overheating was the norm, and the alternator broke not once but twice, making the battery die prematurely. I regretted buying the car. I felt it was the worst decision that I had ever made. But it was my detour. I was not aware back then. Your past is gone. Focus on your future. The vision. One day I was driving through a certain village with a friend. We were going to their farm to inspect crops. Suddenly, as we drove, the car pulled to one side, yet the steering wheel pointed straight. I stopped the vehicle, but my friend and I had no idea what the problem was. I restarted the car, not a very long distance, before I could smell the rubbers from below. I stopped again, confused, not knowing where to find a mechanic to help us out of our problem. In those kinds of villages, you could only find those guys with whole spanner fixing their bicycles. As we sat, deservedly ruffled due to our own ignorance, a man in a tattered and torn pair of trousers was approaching towards us. From a distance, he looked like an old man, but as he walked closer, our perception of his age changed. He was young. We could be age mates. His face was wrinkled, and he had a mummified and yet dolorous expression. It could tell of short years of life with loads of agony. He wore an old pair of Nike sneakers that had been patched and cobbled several times, and the hallux of one of his feet was outside through one hole of the shoe. He came to where we were, and we had no idea what he wanted. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I said smilingly. "What is wrong with the car?" he asked. "We don't really know, but it is binding. We have been asking people around here if there is a mechanic to fix. There is none." "I can try fixing it," he said. "Ah, you know how?" "I can try," he muttered. My friend and I looked at each other and winked. We were desperate for help, but we didn't know this guy nor his skill in mechanics, but we had to, even in doubts, let him fix our bunch of problems. Sometimes a great skill is clothed in rags. The man in torn clothes who looked not to have any knowledge about cars, not even spanner, fixed the car. Unbelievable. "You have the skill. Where did you acquire this skill?" I asked. "At my auntie's place in town, Lilongwe. I visit her place when she is on holiday, especially when she is coming to this village and there is no one to stay at her house. And close to her house, there is a garage where I learned some ABCs of automobile mechanics," he said, dusting off his clothes. "Ah, okay," I said. "Interesting," my friend said. I looked intently at the young man, thinking, said nothing, and instead I just paid him some money, which he gratefully received, as we gave him our regards as well. We drove off to the farm, but the story of the young man could not escape my mind. I drove, thinking through his story, pondering why such a rare skill should be wasted in the village, trying to make meaning of it or any greater good that can be carved from his story. From my musings, it dawned on me to start an organization, Home of Access Organization, which aims at helping the disadvantaged by identifying and nurturing to profitability of their skills, talents, and passions. Home of Access Organization was born to help boys and girls, men and women like the young man I met in the village, to create employment for themselves or get a job through their skills. I was thus excited to see myself on this path again in 2017 when I came to Malawi to do theological studies. This time I was cocksure that the dream that failed to materialize when I was 12 years will materialize. I could imagine myself preaching to thousands, saving lives for God, doing all evangelical works that pastors do. Well, it was all an imagination. This failed as well. I recall a certain friend who once said to me, "Life and everything attached to it is all but assumptions. You need to go out there and test your assumptions." Truly, for the second time, I failed to continue my theological studies, but at least I tested my assumptions. I had a good experience, a different perspective and perception of what life is, and it helped me in building my organization. Your vision must make the world a better place. Follow your passion, for in it lies help for many. The realization. I got back in South Africa with a mind full of experiences and interesting memories. The first thing I did was to share with colleagues the encounter I had with the young village mechanic. We structured the organization, and within a week we had successfully put in place a team of 10 people who were willing to run with the vision, who helped setting up the organization, consulting other already existing organizations, processing registration, and tirelessly crafting proposals. We started offering our services on the 10th of July 2018 as we were waiting for our registration certificate from the South African government, which we later got on the 8th of July 2019. I had most things needed for the organisation easily, and that should be the grace of God. I remember when I was surfing the internet, researching on my laptop, an ad popped up. I opened it. It was about an organisation called We Can Change Our World, founded by Cheryl Harper, and I immediately emailed them asking if I could have Cheryl's phone number, and they were generous. I called Cheryl and asked her if I could have a meeting with her. She agreed. Our first meeting was on the 1st of September 2019, and I narrated my story to her. She later shared my story via email with 10 other founders of organizations in Cape Town. I was running around learning new ideas and strategies for running an organization, and our organization is doing great. I am planning on working with other existing organizations. The world is demanding cooperation with others. One I'm planning to work with is Dream Exchange, founded by Ronald Bose, and wants to launch it in Malawi. In January 2020, my friend Nkululeko Musombuka and I founded an organization called The Force, whose vision is to ignite hope and stir up faith in the lives of South African youths. Before COVID-19, The Force has worked with the University of the Western Cape, Mitchell's Plain False Bay College, Khayelitsha False Bay College, Cape Town College. We are also in discussions to start working with University of Cape Town, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and other private colleges based in Cape Town. In December 2019, I was appointed as Director of Hedges and Highway Outreach Ministries, Inc. in South Africa. Hedges and Highways Outreach Ministries, Inc. is an American-based organization with the vision to serve communities through a multitude of transformational services. I was supposed to start my work here in South Africa in 2020, but we are still putting things in place due to COVID-19. I hope you now understand that things work together for your good. When you are facing challenges, never lose hope in God. Enjoy your detour. You've got to believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that your detour is part of God's bigger plan. You must keep in mind that you are a child of God and you were created for great things. God didn't make you to be average. You have everything you need right now to fulfill your purpose. You may have gotten off to a rough start in life. Perhaps you experienced horrible poverty, despair, abuse, or other negative things during your childhood. You may be tempted to let those negative detours set the course for the rest of your life. But just because you started life that way doesn't mean you have to finish that way. Make it your goal to live the life of your dreams. The path to your dreams will be full of stones, but you must withstand the pain as you trek on them. The tides will rise, but keep on riding. Randomness will push you on every side, but still stand on your goals. Your story may inspire another life to keep pushing and do more, and that is the hope of this peace story. Don't curse the detour, but start blessing it.